So they suggest here that the last problem that at least they raise here is that this Reformed apologetics places excessive restrictions on apologists, right? So they restrict apologists. How? Well, following up on the point just made, Reformed apologetics, they tell us, unnecessarily limits themselves in the kind of apologetic argument that they can and will use. Both Clark and Van Til refuse to use any sort of inductive empirical argument for Christianity. Reformed apologists contend that the theistic proofs, as traditionally formulated, are logically flawed. And so, since they don't use them, our book is suggesting they're missing out on potential ways of arguing with regard to the non-Christian. Uh-huh. And so what they suggest is perhaps these are logically flawed, but then perhaps they may not be. And so let's not throw out, we might say, the baby with the bathwater, right? That's what they're trying to get at. And so, to a certain extent, you want to use a method that possibly work, but notice you don't want to use a method that's at odds with your beliefs in an attempt to get someone to come over to your beliefs, right? That's what the Reformed apologist doesn't want to do. And so, let's assume that God doesn't exist. And so, well, no, you don't want to do that, right? Now, you might want to do that for argument's sake, but you don't want to stand on that kind of neutral ground. Well, let's say we don't know whether or not God exists. Well, no, let's not say that, right? And so that's the problem here. Excessive restrictions on apologetics. Yes, we should be able to use any method. As Van Til says, all facts point to God. So any method can get us there, right? But we need to be careful that we don't use a method that's at odds with our basic beliefs. And then attempt to get someone to believe those beliefs based on something that goes against what we suggest is true.
Right. All right. So the negatives are you have to become a Calvinist, and then you have to look at facts through the positions of worldview, which is exactly what the method teaches. And then it places a restriction on apologists in that we should talk about people's worldview and assume that there's no neutrality, which is exactly what both the Calvinists would say and also what the method is supposed to imply. So those are the negatives. And I'm just saying, it's going to be great to welcome you over to the Reformed apologetic method if those are the worst negatives that we can come up with for this method. Well, all right. Here's our conclusion. Our conclusion of our authors talk about is that Reformed apologetics is a relatively new, dynamic tradition that offers some forceful and surprising ways of defending the Christian faith. However, certain aspects of the movement's history and theology make it difficult sometimes for Reformed apologists to avoid falling into fideism. I don't know if you fall into fideism. It just seems like if you want to be lazy, I guess you could say like, just believe it. It's fine. Like maybe that's how you fall into fideism. Yeah. Yet, as we have seen, Reformed apologetics represents a distinct approach to defending the faith that appeals to rational standards and is characteristically opposed to fideism.